alaikum and good afternoon to everybody. Or for those who don't know me, I'm Tasneem Ahmed. I'm director of Uks Research Centre. And yeah, for a lot of my friends who haven't seen me for a long time, so I should reintroduce myself. This is a conference, a sort of a Zoom conference that we are holding on an issue that is, of course, very important, very close to our hearts, and very recent as well, attire, desire, and rape. And I think all of us have been sort of disturbed. Um, Also, I think, enraged by the statement by the PM on why rapes happen. So, taking it from there, um, I think I would like to listen to everybody speak about the very mindset that thinks that women's dress code is the real cause of rape or any kind of sexual harassment, because that's a prevailing mindset, and that's how it is justified, and it's justified at all levels. It's justified by all in support of the patriarchy, and we would also like to then discuss the role of the media when such things happen, and how does the media react to it. How did the media react to it when this statement came in, and how was what was the coverage like, what was the reportage like, and how did male and female anchors take it, how did the writers take it, how did what was the news content all about. So we will be taking these points into account, and of course everybody is free to speak their mind, and I think I'll start with the ones who have to leave early. Naseem, I'll start with you, and then we'll go on to Mehmil, and then everybody will have their share of just share their thoughts.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Tasneem, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. And thank you for asking me to speak. I guess isme to one, it's a fairly obvious, the response is fairly obvious to the question that you pose, and you pose the question, as you said, because the Prime Minister made certain comments. Naturally, very naturally, very obviously, based on evidence, facts, etc. Dress. Can you hear me? Is the sound okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So naturally, it's an outrageous assumption, because it's, as I said, it's not based on facts, and it essentially, in some ways, it weakens the victim, and it blames the victim, and it empowers the criminal, the perpetrator of rape in this case. What creates an environment in which rape can take place? I mean, obviously rape takes place all over the world, in every kind of society, but I just want to zero in on where we are, and what basically leads to the facts that we have in front of us. And I mean, everybody on the panel is far more well versed. I wouldn't call myself a specialist on anything, least of all on this. And you people have the facts and the figures and the rate at which this crime is increasing in our society. I think there are 3 or 4 things that we're looking at here. We need to look at. One is obviously the criminal himself, his character, his outlook, his values, and what is it that leads to a formation of a character, values, and the capacity and the sense of empowerment in this case, to negative empowerment, to go ahead and commit this crime. So one is the environment, and as far as the environment is concerned, there are multiple factors here. We are looking at, first and foremost, obviously law and the implementation of law is a deterrent and its implementation. But beyond that, how does the society perceives a man and a woman? So that's very fundamental. And I don't want to say discourse, etc. I think we give ourselves too much credit to the society. What goes on in our society is really chat. So the Pakistani chat essentially empowers the potential rapist, because of the fact that a woman is framed in a particular manner in terms of, so her um, her character and how she conducts herself and what she then deserves in society is so linked to what she wears, what she says, how loudly or softly she speaks, and what she does in society. So if you're somebody who's on the screen, or if you're somebody who's wearing tight jeans and so on and so forth, then you're dubbed as westernized, and as kind of quote unquote kosher. Tasneem, you can tell me if I'm going too much
Yeah,
off the tangent,
I
so I
think
can stop then.
I think I'd like to take this point forward about the dress code and how it's taken as an antidote. That if you dress properly, which is like be in parda, then you will not be raped. So for fact,
Okay, just let me just
yeah,
complete my thought. Just a couple of minutes more. And obviously, so that is how you focus, and that's where you make the victim basically more kosher as a victim, right? And you blame the victim. And on the other hand, the whole agency in some ways is taken away from the rapist. The primary responsibility of the crime, then obviously it's diluted, it's in some ways shifted. If not shifted, then certainly diluted, and as a deterrent, obviously it just sends all the wrong signals. So the onus on the male from every aspect, I think, is taken away when you broaden the issue, and you, in the case of a rape, you bring in the question of dressing, etc. I will not, however, say that multiple factors don't lead to this crime. But I think when a crime is committed, and when you're discussing about the crime, the principle, the key factor has to be the male, his outlook, and how society looks at women. Thank you.
thank you so much, and I hope you'll be with us.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Around.
I'm right here. Yeah.
So yeah, like I was saying that so quote unquote, like parda becomes your safety mechanism, but
No.
as the figures tell us, and as the facts are, women in hijab, niqab, burqa, they are raped.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Children from age few months to women 70 or 80 plus are raped. Male, child is also raped. Men are also raped. Male and female transgenders are raped. Then again, like women's dead bodies are dug out of graves and they are raped. So we can't actually say that certain dress code actually saves you. There is no safety dress code for rape. So Mehmil, I'll come to you with the media thing, because obviously you are there, and I think Report Card did a few programs as well, and I think a lot of anchors and others took this up. So how do you think the reporting has been? How do you think the media's mood or mindset has been? Has it been positive or negative, or it's been something in between?
I think the thing is that mostly jin logon ne, whoever took that up, like Shahzeeb did, and he did a very good explanatory segment on this. Report Card did it. Others who did Zara Hatke and others who did it, they actually and actually Naseem wrote a very good piece in the news about it as well. So I think whoever in the media covered it, most of them actually said that what the prime minister has said is totally wrong, because here there's no link between fahashi and rape, because rape is mostly about power rather than lust. There are studies about that as well. But of course, then there are people on social media and media who are from the media who are right wing and who will actually say that, you know, these people are just against Islam or just against Parda. The thing is, had the Prime Minister just said it because of Islam, then, you know, it would have been his own opinion, and that's fine. But the problem is that he has not said it for the first time. Prime Minister has linked fahashi, vulgarity, obscenity with everything under the sun. And he's done it multiple times. He's talked about Bollywood, he's talked about Hollywood so many times. I mean, up to we can't even count them anymore. But there's a problem. So the thing is that, you know, instead of focusing on why rapes happen and why there's such a low conviction rate for rapists, and focusing on the systematic criminal justice system, improving it, modernizing the police, how we have to tackle rape cases. Prime Minister always goes on and on about, you know, blaming the victim, blaming the survivor. That's what I find problematic. That's what he said is as bad as what CCPO Lahore said earlier about the motorway gang rape. So, you know, these things, there's this mindset, and, you know, actually a lot of people in PTI defended what CCPO Lahore said at that time. And this just reflects their mindset that, you know, they think that the survivor is always to be blamed. And it's not the man. I mean, okay, PM said something like, oh, you know, I mean, men don't have control. Har koi to nahi control kar sakta. I mean, what kind of men are these? I mean, what kind of men are he talking about? I mean, really, हम लोग के कोई मर्द अपना कंट्रोल ही नहीं कर सकता. किस किस्म के मर्द है? So basically, ये जो बात करते हैं, so PM has said this multiple times. Then also, I think he doesn't research. He doesn't read at all, because he also talked about high divorce rate in UK and, you know, in other countries, and when, because he was talking about Bollywood, so about India as well. Halaki he doesn't know that, you know, India में सबसे कम divorce rate, and that's actually because of oppression of women. Not because, you know, they know women don't want divorce over there. Then he doesn't know that, you know, UK में एक साल में कम हुआ है divorce rate. Actually, it has gone down in a year. Turkey में बहुत increase हुआ है, जिसकी वो बहुत examples देते हैं. Iran में 1/3 है divorce rate, जिसकी वो examples देते हैं. So really, I think he doesn't read. So the media this time was much more sensible, but I also felt that, you know, a lot of people did not bring it up either. Maybe, I don't know why, maybe because there was too much political stuff going on, maybe because of that. But I do think that, you know, there should have been more outrage than there was in the media. That's my key takeaway from the coverage in the media.
So yeah, so Mehmet, like when you say that, you know, this time around and previously as well, the media has been, been positive in its reporting. I think that is largely true about the English language press. But when you come to, this is like the newspapers I'm talking about. And when you come to the Urdu language newspapers, some of them are like, they have outrageous kind of columns of, you know, in favor of this mindset. For example, the whole debate on Aurat March.
Yes, that was horrible, especially Ummat.
Collection of articles and how they justify rape if women chant some slogan. So keeping that Aurat March at one side, but we'll focus on our topic today. I'll like to go to Sadia Mahmood, who is a professor at Karachi University's Mass Communication Department. Sadia, you actually interact with the students. You're young, and of course you interact with the younger generation. What kind of reaction did you see, or did you assess from these students, from these young people, on how women's dress code is linked with sexual harassment or rape?
Okay, so I belong to a public sector university. I've been teaching there for 21 years now. And there has been a change whereby a lot of people like you who have also studied from the same university, who when now come to the campus are very surprised by looking at the girls and saying कि ये इतना ज़्यादा हिजाब और अबाया culture जो है वो हमारे ज़माने में तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं था. And this is what is happening, and it's also more than 70% of the students are girls, social sciences is even bad. Sciences में you have more men. और ये लड़कियां सारी आती हैं वहाँ पर, और मैंने इनसे एक दफ़ा कुछ बात हो रही थी, तो ये बात हुई कि कोई फंक्शन था, तो कोई बच्ची आई मेरे पास आके कहने लगी कि मैडम वो बड़े उससे गर्मजोशी से सलाम किया, तो शी वाज लुकिंग सो प्रिटी एंड आई लुक्ड एट हर एंड आई सेड हु आर यू, एंड शी सेड मैम you didn't recognize me, and she took a name, and because she was always covered in abaya and hijab and everything, I could not relate the two, and I just asked her and I said ke amazing, matlab I of course I couldn't recognize you, and she laughed and she said ke नहीं मैडम, वो असल में हम लोग तो पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट से आते हैं ना, तो इसलिए हम जो हैं वो ऐसे कपड़े पहन के आते हैं। आज तो मुझे अब्बू छोड़ने के लिए आए हैं, तो अब्बू ही लेने के लिए आएंगे, तो इसलिए मैं तैयार होके आई हूँ। मैं ऐसे नॉर्मली वैसे मैं बिल्कुल अबाया वगैरह नहीं पहनती, और ये एक जनरल ट्रेंड है हमारे यहाँ जब when we interact with the girls, so there is some kind of insecurity, yes, is there, but when you talk to them, उनको ये एहसास आया कहाँ से? क्योंकि देखिए, औरतों की इनसिक्योरिटी कोई नई तो है नहीं पाकिस्तान जैसे मुल्क में। हम तो जब हम खुद भी मिनी बसों में जाया करते थे व्हेन आई वाज अ स्टूडेंट, तो हमें खुद भी पता होता था कि अब ये मर्द अगर करीब आके खड़ा हुआ है तो ये कुछ ना कुछ जरूर करेगा। हमें पहले ही पता चल जाता था, हम तैयार होते थे कि अभी हमने इसको या तो झगड़ा करना है, हमने खुद हटना है, या हम बोरी बाजार जाया करते थे अपनी अम्मा के साथ, तो हमें जरूर हमारी अम्मी कहती थी कि अब्बा और मेरे बीच में चलना, ये चीजें हमेशा से थी। लेकिन अब क्या चीज चेंज हुई जिसकी वजह से इनको अबाया और हिजाब पहनना पड़ा, या उनकी ये सोच बनी, और वो ये चेंज हुआ है कि उन्हें ये जो नैरेटिव है ना, जो अब हमें टॉप से नजर आ रहा है। देखिए, पहले आपको टॉप हायरार्की रहा था, आपके पास लीडर्स, आपके फिलोसोफर्स, आपके इंटेलेक्चुअल्स, आपके थिंकर्स जो आपको लगते हैं कि भाई ये लीडर्स हैं या ये पब्लिक ओपिनियन मेकर्स हैं, टीवी पे आ रहे हैं, वो लोग ये बातें नहीं, इस तरह की बातें नहीं किया करते थे, जो मेरा असेसमेंट है। अब क्या प्रॉब्लम हो रही है कि अब उन्हें ऊपर से ये बात बताई जा रही है कि यू वांट टू कीप योरसेल्फ सिक्योर, वेयर एन अबाया, हिजाब करोगी तो तुम सिक्योर रहोगी। मैं आप लोगों को कराची यूनिवर्सिटी की मिसाल दे देती हूँ। कराची यूनिवर्सिटी में रिसेंटली एक कल्चर शुरू हुआ है जहाँ पे बहुत सारे रिक्शास चलते हैं जो कि इनसाइड द कैंपस चलते हैं। इट्स लाइक जैसे बग्गीज चलती है ना, आपको एक डिपार्टमेंट से दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट, इस तरह से स्टूडेंट्स उन्हें यूज करते हैं। देयर हैव बीन एटलीस्ट टू मी रिपोर्टेड इंसिडेंसेस 3, और मैं सिर्फ एक डिपार्टमेंट की स्टूडेंट एडवाइजर हूँ, एंड कराची यूनिवर्सिटी में बहुत सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स हैं where men, rickshaw drivers are all men, boys, old men, whatever, and they have flashed themselves on the girls. अब आप सिक्योरिटी को पूछिए कि कौन सी सिक्योरिटी है? वो लड़कियां जो अबाया हिजाब भी पहन रही हैं, जो यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी वैसे भी सिक्योर जगह मानी जाती है, लड़कियां यूनिवर्सिटी में आके अपने आप को रिलेटिवली सेफर फील करती हैं, वहां पे ये इंसिडेंट हुए। 3 इंसिडेंसेस मुझे रिपोर्ट हुए हैं सिर्फ। मैं यूनिवर्सिटी की, पूरी यूनिवर्सिटी का मुझे नहीं पता, और बहुत सारी चीजें रिपोर्ट भी नहीं हो रही होंगी। तो ये जो पूरी सोच है ना, जो ऊपर से नीचे तक इनको दी जा रही है, फॉल्स नैरेटिव है, और स्टूडेंट्स को भी इस बात का अंदाजा है, लेकिन उनके पास अब कोई चॉइस नहीं रही ना, तो वो ये सोचते हैं कि अच्छा चलो एक ये अबाया ही तो है, चलो कपड़े ही बच जाएंगे, मट्टी नहीं लगेगी, इस्त्री नहीं करनी पड़ेगी, ये भी एक सोच होती है, तो वो कर लेती हैं। लेकिन उनके अंदर कोई कुछ भी पहन लें, वो कुछ भी पहन लें, उनके अंदर कोई सेंस ऑफ सिक्योरिटी नहीं है, और कहीं पर भी नहीं है। दे आर एक्सट्रीमली इनसिक्योर।
थैंक यू सो मच सादिया फॉर दिस काइंड ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन, जो एटलीस्ट मुझे नहीं मालूम था कि इनसाइड द यूनिवर्सिटी कितनी इनसिक्योरिटी है, और इस तरह के वाकयात हो रहे हैं, जो आपने सिर्फ 3 बताया, पता नहीं कितने और किस तरह के हो रहे होंगे जो रिपोर्ट नहीं होते। डेफिनेटली आई वुड लाइक anybody to pick this yeah, Beena, you have been there since the beginning, so Beena, let's talk about the mindset, let's talk about the power thing, and how women are blamed, the victim blaming thing that seems already talked about, but how women or girls all their life live under the burden of self-defense, and that which they can't do very effectively because mechanism nahi hai, training nahi hai. So what's the way out? How do we change the mindset from home, from school, where?
Yeah,
Okay, Assalamualaikum, everybody. And I'm so glad you organized this because like you said, Tasneemji, I was just so disturbed. For a week, I was disturbed by this statement, and I was on social media very vigorously sort of making my statements, countering this narrative. But if you'll forgive me, rather than repeating sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so rather than repeating what we already know about power and how women are intimidated and how they're brought up to feel that they themselves are the cause of men's temptation, I kind of want to say a couple of things about my analysis of the Prime Minister's statement itself, how that was perceived on social media, and where I think the media fell short in terms of challenging this statement. Because I think in cases like these, the media, which is occupied by women, unlike the government itself, which is not occupied by women, but the media has more women in it. And I think if we don't take up the job of challenging this very pro-rape and very, misogynist narrative, then who else is going to do it? So what I want to go back to is his statement where he said that, fahashi aa gaya society mein. Acha, what fahashi? So he was talking about Hollywood, Bollywood, and also, I think, forgive me for talking about this during Ramzan, whatever, but online pornography, which has exploded all over the world. And Pakistan is no exception to this, right? So what he was actually saying, which I understood after many hours of speaking to a lot of people, his supporters, so on and so forth, he was really actually drawing a direct line between, I believe, adult material that's available on the internet, in addition to Hollywood, Bollywood. And what he said was that not everybody is strong enough to withstand this. Not everybody's got strong willpower, right? And the answer, as we've already observed, the antidote is farda. What is the concept of farda? So what I liked the pushback on that was, well, is farda only for women? No, farda is for men also.
Yeah.
So one, the media needs to take up this very strongly and really start flooding the media with this idea that it's not just for women, it's for men, right? That's one positive thing they can do. The second thing is that I think the Prime Minister should really have been questioned in depth. I mean, really, somebody should be pushing for an interview with him. He'll never grant it, or maybe he will. But I think some senior anchor woman really needs to push for an interview with him where he sits down and clarifies what he said. Because if you know, his spokespeople issued a clarification twice. And nobody even took that clarification and challenged it and said, look, here's why this is a problem. Here's what this is. Would you like to come on TV and talk about this? So I think these could turn into very teachable moments for a very big part of the population. One thing that really disturbed me a lot about this was there will always be men that are going to be happy because this just promotes the status quo where men need to do nothing and they can keep staring and ogling and groping and raping and watching porn. And because so many people were just like, oh, but it's always going to be there. Why should, you just have to accept that there's always going to be porn. There's always going to be rape. Why do we have to accept that? So we need to teach our girls in some way that, no, this is not acceptable. And all over the world, women have protested. There have been huge protests that it is not acceptable. So this message has to be pushed through the media as well. This is not acceptable. We are not going to sit here and say this will always happen. It shouldn't. The problem is that, so many women actually turn on and said, well, yeah, he's right. Of course, we have to dress decently. Of course, we have to protect ourselves, blah, blah, blah. So breaking this association is probably the biggest job that we are going to have as people involved in the media. So yeah, this is, to sum up, it should really analyze his statement, try and push for an interview with him where he can actually speak about this and really do your homework beforehand. Be very prepared with the statistics, ready to challenge on the fact that divorce is rising in Turkey, divorce is rising in Muslim countries, and really just sort of shatter his complacency and his illusions for everybody to see so that people have something to think and talk about. Because what this has done is started a conversation, but the conversation should not be allowed to die out. It must continue, and that is the responsibility of the media, to make sure this conversation keeps on going all the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Veena, because we've actually brought out two very important points. One is the responsibility of men, parda of men, like the male gaze. You're supposed to lower your gaze. You're not supposed to look at women. And this is something that nobody tells our young girls when they're growing up, that you should question the person who's staring at you. I remember I had a producer, a young woman, and she used to travel in public transport, and she had got short hair, and she doesn't cover her head. So she got down from the wagon, and there was this old man, and he said, beta, you should be covering your head. And she said, chacha, you should not even be looking at me. So that is something that we need to put into the minds of everybody. Male.
Sorry. I'll just interrupt to say no. We do not tell the youngest. We need to teach the young boys. It's the
Both.
boys that are not getting the message.
That's what I'm saying. Boys should be told from the beginning that they are not like free to do whatever they want, because that's what we say. वो लड़का है तो कर सकता है, वो सिगरेट पीता है कोई बात नहीं है, वो there is a beautiful movie, बरेली की बर्फी. Somebody need to make it part of our syllabus, because it has so many lessons, especially about when boys come to see girls in India, and this girl is asked by this boy that, I will not ask you any question, but are you a virgin? And she says, are you? आप हैं क्या? He says, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, मगर आप हैं या नहीं, उससे फर्क पड़ता है. And she says, नहीं हूँ फिर. And then obviously the rishta is rejected. So this is the kind of dialogue that we need to have. And then how the woman says to her father that, had I been a boy, these problems wouldn't be there. Everybody would have said, सिगरेट पीता है लड़का है, पीते हैं, बाहर रहता है देर तक लड़का है, करते हैं. So that is how we justify. So the upbringing of boys, the training of boys should start from home, and then go on into school, college, higher studies. I would like anybody to just comment on whatever we have discussed so far and give their own views, so that we can have the discussion on
I'd
what
like
type
to-
of-
Yeah, Tasneem?
I'd like to take the point forward about what you said. I feel like media is a reflection of our society. And while a lot of us are pushing back on what the PM said, and we are enraged by it, a lot of the population in the media, of course, they're of the same mindset. News media is a separate entity. Now, looking at what our dramas and what our content, lifestyle content sort of that is being in the media, like what that is giving out the message. It's about power. We are usually very forgiving of men. We like to put the blame on women. And this is portrayed far more than, it's being pushed back. So even though there are so many of us putting in effort, but a lot of that effort just goes to waste, because not many people look at the news. Not many people read the newspapers. Not many people are interested in, hardcore and serious content. So they will be diverted towards something that is lighthearted, and they'll be watching that. But a lot of that side of the media that portrays, that is promoting a lot of our misogynistic ideas and, patriarchal values, जैसे dramas हो गए, इस तरह की चीजें हो गई. So, normally people sitting at home during prime time hour, they're watching these dramas, they're looking at content like such. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this regard as well. Only then we can bring out, some proper, we can bring out some, better change in this regard.
Thank you. I'll just inform everybody that Uks has taken up this initiative of looking at the entertainment media, especially the dramas. We have started a group called Hopscotch, and I think Mehmel and Shazia and Afia, they are part of it. So maybe I can include more if they're interested. And we are actually looking at, because we have been monitoring the news media as well as the entertainment media, and we actually have been trying to sort of bring in a counter narrative for the entertainment media, like change the dialogues and stuff like that. So who wants to share the comments? Manize,
Faria, I think Faria ne
yeah,
Please,
Faria,
chat.
when
Ji.
when these people have spoken, I'd like to share something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say oh, sorry, go ahead.
Who's first? Faria,
Faria,
go ahead. Okay, Afia, go ahead. Go ahead, Afia.
अच्छा, okay, ये दोनों पहले थी. अच्छा, एक तो ये चीज कि just 3 days ago, I was just standing outside an ice cream shop, and there was this man. He was on crutches, old man, must have been around 80, and he passes by and he shouts at me, "Dupatta sar pe lo." Honestly, if he hadn't been on a motorcycle, I would have confronted him, probably not slapped him, but really shouted at him, why do you know that I'm not wearing a dupatta on my head? Why were you looking at me? So एक तो ये वो पुशबैक हमारे यहाँ नहीं है. दूसरी चीज जहाँ प्राइम मिनिस्टर की बात आ रही है, जिसकी वजह से ये आज ये सारा आपने किया है, देखिए वो किसने कहा था कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर शायद पढ़ते नहीं है. So I don't think he has the ability to read or understand these kinds of complex narratives. Sorry, who's laughing? I hope it's in sympathy to what I've said, because he has no understanding of even what is asked of him. That particular question was about child abuse and the rising number of rapes. And he went on a tangent of bepardagi and fahashi and Bollywood and Hollywood and pornography. How beparda or how fahash are those little boys who are getting raped? And what attire would save them? इस मतलब वो पुशबैक उन चैनल्स पे नहीं आता ना. वो एक सवाल हो के उन्होंने इतनी एक बिल्कुल लव किस्म का जवाब दे दिया उसका, और उसके बाद ये सारे. दूसरी चीज ये कि वी नीड मेल एलाइज ऑल्सो, क्योंकि एक हमारे यहाँ मुश्किल ये है. तो आई नो शाजेब का प्रोग्राम वाज स्पॉट ऑन एंड ही चैलेंज एंड ही प्रेजेंटेड फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स, एंड थैंक गॉड वी हैव पीपल लाइक हिम ओवर हियर in journalism, and there are some others, because there are people like Ansar Abbasi too. The thing is the statistics have not been thrown back at his face. The questions have not been thrown back at his face कि वो अगर pornography को कहते हैं कि हम मर्द जो है, सारे मर्द इतने will power नहीं होती, pornography की वजह से वो trigger होते हैं, ये करते हैं. Excuse me, who is controlling the pornography? How much of millions of dollars are being spent into PTA to stop these websites access? वो सारी चीजें फिर कौन उससे पूछेगा? What Bina is saying that somebody should ask him for an interview. Bina, I can bet on it he'll never agree. He has never done those one-on-one interviews except the kind जहाँ पे वो interviewer जो है वो लग रहा होता है. We recently saw one with Kamran Khan. तो उसमें वो उनका सारा वो narrative दे रहे थे, and Imran Khan was there almost as a prop. So Imran Khan has not ever come as part of panel discussions. वो बहुत पुरानी बात है, जब अभी वो initial अपनी journey पे थी. हमारे इस वक्त बहुत सी anchors यहाँ मौजूद हैं, media persons मौजूद हैं. He likes to be the me, myself and I person, so that nobody can question, nobody can counter his arguments. So I think the medium of arguing is जैसा ये अभी आपने एक मौका दिया है सोशल मीडिया पे, जैसा बीना है और बहुत सी खवातीन हैं और मेल एलाइज हैं जो कि इस चीज को काउंटर कर रहे हैं. ये चीजें बहुत जरूरी हैं, बट दीज थिंग्स आल्सो नीड टू बी टेकन एट अनदर लेवल. क्योंकि जब हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, तो ये तो औरतें हैं, इनको ये लोग तो बेपर्दगी चाहती हैं, ये चाहती हैं इनको इस किस्म की आज़ादी हो, या ये कि ये तो औरतें हैं, ये तो इनका रोना है ही. सो द वॉइसेस नीड टू बी, ऐसे वो कहते हैं ना पार्लियामेंट में कोई चीज है बाई पार्टिजान उसको कहते हैं, हमारे यहाँ पार्लियामेंट्री कमिटीज हैं. These things need to be sounded out at those forums as well. It should not be just us women doing the pushback. She should know that there are consequences to what he says, which are very, very irresponsible statements, which can trigger exactly what we are trying to ask him. Why isn't it stopping? Why are there more cases? Why are there so much of sexual abuse cases? So इसके जब वो टॉप डाउन, जैसे सादिया ने भी कहा कि ऊपर से जब ये आता है, तो वो एक तरह से एक्सेप्टेंस होती है टू द परपेट्रेटर्स कि सही है ना, ये औरतें तो हैं ही इस काबिल. So I think those things need to be challenged at the Senate, at the parliamentary forum also, and the journalists as a cohort need to hold the public representatives to account as to why the pushback is not coming as stridently from them as we are trying to mount.
Thank you, Afi. I mean, yeah, all valid points, and of course, we have so many other speakers to share their views. So it's Fariha and then Manize.
Thank you. I'll be quick. See, the thing is with Imran Khan, at least, right? No amount of we do have this education fix, so maybe we give them statistics, and just to build on that, I think what we see from the Prime Minister and his government is a combination of ignorance but also arrogance, right? And there is no gumption to actually unlearn. No amount of statistics. You can take the pandemic, you can take any amount of issues, right? And that's not something, they just make these off the cuff, unsubstantiated remarks and they run with it. At a time where we have had two very good judgments, which not only, so from the Lahore High Court on the two-finger testing and virginity testing, and also a recent Supreme Court judgment, both of which emphasize that the perpetrator is the one you need to focus on. There are certain things you cannot and should not be asking a rape survivor. And in addition to that, the Lahore High Court judgment also said that, irrespective the character and sexual history of a woman does not mean that you can justify rape. Even for sex workers, there's recognition that they can be raped, right? There is marital rape. And so all of these things are just brushing it under the carpet. But in terms of what we also need to do is ask, what is the legitimacy of these ordinances that they've gone ahead, the anti-rape ordinances that they've issued, because that also needs to be pulled in part of the narrative, these quick fixes that they do. Now there's an implementation committee of about 32 people who are going to try and implement these ordinances. One, the ordinances themselves are flawed. They already have several overlapping things. Then they put in things like chemical castration. We know for a fact the deterrent value, I mean, the way your criminal justice system is structured, the higher the punishment, the greater the degree of burden of proof. And with the investigation and prosecution the way it is, and these mindsets trickle down. So what the PM is doing, which is rape apologia, is exactly the kind of thing that you're confronted with in society, at a thana, in a courtroom or whatever, right? And he's entrenching this view, which is incredibly harmful. And I think what they gave, their responses, their so-called clarifications, were actually defenses and justifications. They are still standing their ground, and that has not changed. There has been no apology from them. There's only been a defense. And I think that this committee, their measures in terms of anti-rape ordinances, their actual commitment to this cause, and not just hogwash of enacting laws and putting together committees, that is the forum to also put pressure on.
All right. So so there are multiple forums that we have to go to and take up this issue and other related issues at different levels. Manise, being in journalism for so long and doing a show, how have you sort of responded to it? And how did you see the newsrooms environment? Was it like all for it, against it? How?
So with my show, the 10 p.m. show, we also did a show on Tuesday, which was basically looking at the laws in rape and looking at, of course, the Prime Minister's comment. And we got other political parties to comment on it. But I have to say, Tasneem, one thing that firstly, hello to everybody. I didn't get a chance to say hello to friends and colleagues. Nice to see so many people here. This is an important discussion, of course. One thing I would like to say about the Prime Minister is that this is something that we all knew for a very long time about him. If you all remember, in the 1990s, he wrote an article, which was very...
in the Nation, I think.
It was, I think it was in the, I don't know which newspaper it is, but my mother was so livid with it that she's read it in the morning and then she responded to it in the Friday Times. And I'm sure that Jugnu Mohsen still has a copy of it. So with that article, it was very clear what his views about women were. And that we have all known, who have known him and who have known about him. So I think that was no surprise for me. As far as how the newsrooms reacted, in my team, there are 2 men and there are 2 women. So, which includes myself. And I could see that the men were a little uncomfortable with this entire conversation that they were having, but they couldn't say anything to me because what are they going to say? I'm the executive producer. However, I do believe that having a conversation, opening up a conversation, makes a big difference. And the other problem that I have is with what is happening today. And my mother used to always say that, she said, beta, homework karna bada zaruri hota hai. Ab homework khatam ho gaya. And I'm doing a little bit of introspection about our own generation of women as well. There are a lot of talking heads. वो आपको opinion बहुत जगह मिल जाएगा, but आपको information नहीं मिलेगी. For example, abhi recently the anti-rape ordinance lapsed on the 15th of April. Now they put in another ordinance for 120 days. How come that itna kuch bayanat deke, itna shor sharaba macha ke beech mein se they were not able to do the work for it, the work that was required to make it into law. The committee that they have made, I've seen it. It's a very good committee. All these people know exactly what is happening and what needs to be done. And they all say the same thing, which is that the existing laws need to be implemented and there needs to be better training. Now, there is very little awareness of what these laws are, even amongst the police. Just 3 weeks ago, voice from the platform of voicepk.net, where we basically document human rights issues. There was a young boy, he was 5 years old, he was raped. And jo uske par unhone PPC lagai, it was not of rape. It was of एक खास उनकी होती है of unnatural offenses, right? So उनमें वो अभी तक उनको बताया नहीं गया पुलिस वालों को कि देखिए इसको भी रेप के जुमरे में लाया जाता है, क्योंकि इस एंटी रेप ऑर्डिनेंस के अंदर उन्होंने कोई फर्क नहीं किया between sexes, and that this also includes transgenders. So I feel that जिस तरीके से as journalists and as women's journalists and as people who are pro human rights, जिस तरीके से हमें पीछा करना चाहिए था उस खबर का, हम नहीं कर पाए. और मैं ये समझती हूँ आज से अगर हम कर ले 15 साल पहले अगर कोई भी वजीर आजम ये स्टेटमेंट देता तो खवातीन बाहर नेशनल असेंबली की खड़ी होती. आपको याद होगा कि जहरी साहब ने एक स्टेटमेंट दी थी कि जी ऑनर किलिंग तो हमारा कल्चर है, हमारा हुस्न है. तो उसके बाद नेशनल असेंबली के सामने एक जुलूस निकला था. नाउ आई डू अंडरस्टैंड दैट कोविड हैज आल्सो कर्ब्ड अस, बट आई डू बिलीव आल्सो that the women have not had the response that frankly that they should have. They should have been a more coordinated, a much more stronger response. They should have been perhaps a more, following the story through. And this I mean, even from the newsrooms, the story of rape is considered a side story. Frankly, it is considered a side story कि मुनीज़े कर लेगी, शाज़ेब एक segment कर लेगा, एक दो और कर लेंगे. मगर अगर आप बाकी मेन स्ट्रीम जर्नलिस्ट को देखें तो कहते होते जनानिया दा प्रोग्राम है, तो जनानिया दा इशू है ना दा की कर. सो मेरा ख्याल है एक ये इशू, हालांकि आप देखें लास्ट ईयर 2 साल की स्टैटिस्टिक्स देखें उसके अंदर लड़के ज्यादा रेप हो रहे. सो देयर इज एन इशू. तो वो लड़के क्या कर रहे थे? तो वजीर आजम का तो अब अल्लाह ही हाफिज है, हम क्या कर सकते हैं उनके बारे में. मगर जो हमारा अपना सोसाइटी है, जो हमारी अपनी एक जमाने में, तस्नीम आप तो बड़ी अच्छी तरह जानती हैं, जो वो रिस्पांस देते थे वो तो मुंह तोड़ रिस्पांस देते थे. वो मुंह तोड़ रिस्पांस नहीं आया और उसकी वजूहात भी ढूंढनी पड़ेंगी, टटोलनी पड़ेंगी.
नहीं, बिल्कुल सही है मनीषा, बिकॉज आज से अगर मैं 20 साल पहले जाऊं, जब पीपल लाइक शैली वर देयर, शैला ज़िया एंड अदर्स, हम सेनेट में जाके घंटों हम बाहर कैफेटेरिया में बैठे रहते थे इन द वेट कि जब चेयरपर्सन आएंगे तो फिर हम अपनी मीटिंग कर लेंगे. वी नेवर गेव अप, चाहे वो देर हो जाए सवेर. हर तरह की रैलीज हमने की हैं, मुशर्रफ के स्टेटमेंट के खिलाफ की हैं, हर तरह की हैं, एंड वी बीन वेरी वेरी प्रोएक्टिव. बट अब वो मुझे थोड़ा सा लगता है कि वो धीमा पड़ गया है समहाउ. जितनी हमने आवाज़ें औरत मार्च में देखी थी, उतनी ही आवाज़ें हमें इस पे भी देखनी चाहिए थी, क्योंकि वो एक अच्छा एक आपका सॉर्ट ऑफ आप बताते हैं दुनिया को कि जी हम इश्यूज पे बात करते हैं. एंड जहाँ तक मीडिया की बात है, यू नो आई ऑलवेज, क्योंकि हम मीडिया मॉनिटरिंग करते रहते हैं सारी उम्र से, हम यही कर रहे हैं. सो व्हेन वी लुक एट द प्रायोरिटीज, अब a newspaper like Dawn, उसमें भी जब एडिटोरियल खवातीन पे आएगा तो वो तीसरे नंबर पे होता है, द लास्ट एडिटोरियल. And I've always had this argument with the editors and the editorial people that, why can't it be the first? ज़रूरी तो नहीं कि political stuff ही जो है वो ऊपर आए, but it's still to happen. I mean, unless something really, really awful happens, which I hope it doesn't. तो वो priority नहीं होती है उसके ऊपर कि और बाकी सारी खबरें politicized होती हैं. Yeah, you were saying something and then we'll move on.
Yeah, and I was just like to say that somebody once said that women will always be the last colony. We are the last colony.
We are.
And इसके अंदर आप देखिए कि जो slurs हैं against women politicians, अगर मैं उनसे कभी पूछूं कि आप इसका जवाब क्यों नहीं देती, तो कहती हैं हमारे पास और बहुत ज्यादा काम है, हम इस पे नहीं दे सकते. And this is not people's party, but other political parties. So I think that उनको ये भी सिखाया जाता है, oh, if you want to be in the mainstream, then play it like a man. एंड वो ये नहीं समझती, मैं ये समझती हूँ कि जो लोग जमहूरियत के खिलाफ बात करते हैं वही लोग खवातीन के ऊपर भी तशद्दुद करते हैं और उनके खिलाफ भी बात करते हैं. ये मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है in my own career, and my mother used to also believe this very much so. And so I believe that she linked the women's rights movement to democracy, and quite rightly so under Ziaul Haq, because she believed that only in a democratic dispensation can you actually have true rights for any minority, and she counted women as a minority. And I feel that जब भी यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में जमहूरियत कमजोर हुई है, उसका बराह रास्त असर पड़ा है माइनॉरिटीज के ऊपर और खवातीन के ऊपर.
Yeah, definitely.
एक बात मैं ये ऐड करना चाहूंगी, दो बातें मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगी. एक तो ये कि हमारा
Sadia, I would like to give others a chance because are we meeting
very quickly. एक बात कहना चाहूंगी कि जो औरतों का रिस्पॉन्स है वो स्लो रहा. ऑन द अदर हैंड जो हमारा राइट विंग मीडिया है उसका रिस्पॉन्स, जो पहले मैडम तस्नीम ने ये बात कही कि उम्मत अखबार की जो बात हो रही थी कि उनकी जो हरकत थी वो तेज हुई, तो दोनों तरफ से जो है ना वो हमें नजर आ रहा है ये कंप्लेसेंसी. और दूसरी एक और बात जो इसके अंदर मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगी वो ये है कि जो हमारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी इन गवर्नमेंट है उसमें जो खवातीन है वो, आपने जिया की मिसाल दी, जिया के जमाने में विमेन मूवमेंट बहुत अच्छी चल रही थी बिकॉज हमें हमारा दुश्मन नजर आता था. अब हमें नजर नहीं आता, हमें somehow the other ये बता दिया गया है कि हम एक इनलाइटेंड सिचुएशन में हैं. हम हैं नहीं, लेकिन हमें बताया गया है. तो जमहूरियत है ही नहीं मुल्क के अंदर, तो अब हम क्या बात करें आगे फिर.
Okay, so who else is? I mean, Shazia, are you still there? Who else is there? Yeah, Shazia.
Yeah, hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, actually, I'm just listening to everything, so it's okay.
No, speak up.
Okay, what I thought was initially कि जब ये हुआ था, and when he said this, so I was like looking at the social media, and one thing I was a little अजीब लगी मुझे वो ये था कि हम लोग इमरान खान के पास्ट को ले आए और बोला कि आपने तो you went to the UK and in England you were with amongst women, and as if that was also something wrong. I think that was also okay. He wasn't raping them or anything. He was just, with women, and he was socializing, and he had women friends. And I thought that was okay. तो जो उधर से जो response आया social media का वो भी ठीक नहीं था कि उनका पास्ट डिग अप करके और उस पे हंगामा करना कि ये खुद तो औरतों के बीच में घूमते थे तो ठीक है, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. मुझे बस ये एक अजीब बात लगी थी, और तो इससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं था. बस that's all I wanted to say.
All right, okay. Who else hasn't spoken as yet? So we'll like to hear their voice. I mean, there were quite a few people in the beginning. Acha, I think a lot of people have left, and we are. Yeah, who's there? I can see somebody's face. Is that Lubna?
You can't see. मेरी वीडियो बंद है जी, मैं हूँ लाइन पे
जी. आप हाँ बात करें बिल्कुल.
नहीं, I just want to say मैंने एक तो लेट ज्वाइन किया था, लेकिन मनीष से और आफिया की बात से बिल्कुल मैं एग्री करती हूँ कि ये जो मसला है इसमें मुझे जो नजर आता है, मैं जो खवातीन से बात कर रही हूँ वो डरती हैं, जो थोड़े से लिबरल हैं मगर वोकल नहीं है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये हमारी जो एंकर्स हैं, स्पेशली फीमेल एंकर्स मनीषा हैं और बहुत सारी स्ट्रॉन्ग खवातीन हैं, इनकी तरफ से हमें मुसलसल कंटेंट मिले अगर देखने को टीवी पे, ताकि लोगों को समझ में आए कि दिस इज गोइंग ऑन। एंड देन सारे शाहजेब टाइप हमारे एंकर्स हैं जो स्ट्रांगली बात करते हैं, क्योंकि ब्लास्फेमी के चार्जेस लग जाते हैं और बहुत सारे खतरनाक चीजें लग रही हैं। तो पीपल हु हैव बीन देयर और वोकल रहे हैं, और मूवमेंट्स हमारी हिस्टोरिकल हैं जिया के जमाने से, तो ये बताना चाहिए कि we need to clarify and separate all these कि जी औरत मार्च है तो उसमें ब्लास्फेमी लगी है, तो ये ये क्यों गलत है। एंड लीगली इसको खातून को एम्पावर करना चाहिए कि भाई don't be scared if these things are charges are put on you. There are people who will support and will take you out of this. Speak up. तो मैं तो बस यही कहना चाहती हूँ।
ओके, या डेफिनेटली हमें एक दूसरे को ताकत देनी है, और वो उसी वक्त होगी जब हम एक नुक्ते पे मुत्तफिक होंगे। वी ऑल एक्चुअली हैव टू एग्री ऑन अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स कि वो क्यों गलत हैं। ब्लास्फेमी के चार्जेस हर एक पे लगा देना विदाउट इवन गोइंग टू द डिटेल्स कि वो चीज़ क्या थी, क्या कही गई थी, क्यों उस पर ये चार्ज नहीं लग सकता, उसको डिबेट करना, उसको क्वेश्चन करना, ये बहुत मुश्किल है, बिकॉज जो क्वेश्चन करेगा उसके ऊपर भी वही चार्ज लग जाएगा। सो one has become actually so scared of uttering anything. I mean, even doing this discussion today, I feel कि इसमें भी कुछ ना कुछ नेगेटिव आ जाएगा। सो बट उस डर से अगर हम बिल्कुल ही बोलना और डिस्कस करना छोड़ दें तो फिर हम जिंदा ही क्यों रहें और काम ही क्यों करें। सो आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक एवरीबडी, क्योंकि हमने 2 से 3 का कहा था, बट आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क एनीबडी अगर कुछ वो ऐड करना चाह रहे हैं तो वो ऐड करें, देन आई विल सम इट अप एंड लाइक टू थैंक एवरीबडी। सो एनीबडी एल्स हु वुड लाइक टू ऐड एनीथिंग?
Yeah, sorry, I'm speaking for the third time, but very quickly, I would like to tell you that, a journalist has recently resigned from the newspaper because he was being asked कि story करो औरत मार्च की वीडियो के ऊपर, और उसने कहा कि जी क्या स्टोरी करनी है। उसने कहा फतवा लेकर आओ मौलवियों से कि इसके ऊपर जो है ब्लास्फेमी का चार्ज लगता है। द रिपोर्टर हु वाज, मैं सिर्फ ये बता रही हूँ कि ऑल होप इज नॉट लॉस्ट। वो रिपोर्टर एक मर्द है, वो उस इदारे से बहुत अरसे से वाबस्ता था, उसके बावजूद ही रिजाइन फ्रॉम हिज पोजीशन। ही डज नॉट हैव एनी अदर जॉब राइट नाउ, एंड राइट नाउ ही इज डूइंग अ रिसर्च पेपर जो कि सहाफती इक़दार और औरत मार्च के हवाले से है। एंड वंस इट्स डन आई विल शेयर द रिजल्ट विद यू ऑल्सो। तो ये है कि ये इतना देखिए एक हद पे आके ना मर्द भी हमारे साथ ही, यानी जो इंक्लूसिविटी है ना वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। हमें यहाँ पे उनके साथ मिलके ऐसे द मेन हु आर willing to think about these things, but then again I would like to add up के वो जो जमहूरियत वाला फिनोमेना है ना, तो हमें ये बात पे बहुत क्लैरिटी रहनी चाहिए कि मुल्क में जमहूरियत नहीं है। तो जब जमहूरियत नहीं होती तो फिर इसी तरह की सिचुएशन होती है, मार्जिनलाइज्ड कम्युनिटीज और मार्जिनलाइज्ड होती हैं, और वही हमारे साथ हो रहा है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Sadia, and thank you, everybody. I think it's been a good discussion, although some people didn't show up, but yeah, whosoever has been there has actually contributed a lot to the debate. And we have actually, I think, come up with quite a few valid points, or, which can be taken up in other discussions, and we can sort of continue with our sort of, like taking up this issue again and again and not forgetting it. So the one thing that we all agreed on is that dress code actually doesn't matter. Rape and dress code has nothing to do with each other. Like, they are totally 2 different things. So people have to be very, very clear about it. Also that it doesn't matter if women are dressed in a particular way, and if they're not dressed in a particular way, it's, the burden is also on men to behave. to sort of lower their gaze. And like Afia said that, you have to respond. और ये अब हमें करना पड़ेगा. We actually have to be very, very vocal and not fearing. अब हमारी जब खैर उम्र में नहीं है कि हम fear करें, but even young बच्चियां जो हैं उनको भी बताना, like के बच्चों को, लड़कों को बताना है हमें, family से शुरू करना है सारा कुछ. So वो सारी चीजें हैं. फिर मीडिया का पूरा रोल है कि मीडिया किस तरह से इसको देखता है. चीज़ें पोलिटिसाइज इतनी होती है. इवन कोविड के ज़माने में थिंग्स वर सो पोलिटिसाइज व्हिच इज स्टिल आर, कि जो औरतों वाला इशू था वो बिल्कुल साइड में चला गया था, बिकॉज एवरीबडी नोज दैट डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस हैड गॉन अप ड्यूरिंग कोविड, और अभी भी सॉर्ट ऑफ वही सूरत हाल है. तो वो रिसर्च ही उस तरह की नहीं हुई हमारे यहाँ. आई थिंक अक्स जो है, probably we are the only ones who've been sort of taking these up all the time. मतलब हम इसी को लेके चलते रहे हैं और मुतवातिर हम इस पे कुछ ना कुछ करते रहते हैं. सो कोविड वाली जो बात है उस पर भी हमारी एक रिपोर्ट नेक्स्ट वीक आ रही है which looks at the media coverage of COVID of almost like 9-10 months, 3 महीने पहले कोविड के, फिर बाकी 6-7 महीने कोविड के बाद, on how the media news media, both electronic and print, looked at COVID and how women were missing. So वो हम आपसे share करेंगे, and we'll share it to the larger public as well. So I'd like to thank everybody and keep working on it, keep talking about it, keep discussing it. People like Sadia, people like others, I especially mentioned Sadia because she has young students with her. And it's important to change their mindsets, to work on that. So thank you, Sadia, for being here, and thank you everybody. Hope to see you again on another topic at another discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Veena.
If anyone wants